key to understand it and kind of navigating through academic texts, which a lot of people I think have attempted. I mean, this is kind of like reading comprehension in a very tired, like if your reading comprehension is like beginner, then probably get to like a intermediate or advanced level, and then it would be easier to understand it that way. What is reading comprehension? It's like when I read a fictional book, oh damn it, I'm just gonna, whatever. I can understand what the author was attempting to convey through what the author has written, and to an extent what the author's opinion was at the time, or why he was writing the things he was writing, right? That's reading comprehension. A lot of people can read the initial story plot by plot point, and they can follow along with the storyline and then understand what these characters all do in turn with each other and what it all means, right? And if it's a metaphor, if it's literal, if it's some sort of analogy, that kind of stuff. If it's like actual valid work, like if I can, my reading comprehension would be higher if I can understand why the author decided to write something that's dishonest or misleading. That would be a higher level reading comprehension, right? Like it, I don't know, what should I say? So my point is,
You're smart, so look at you. You're smart. You're smart. Well, what do you want?
I don't know how to explain this in a succinct way without actually having to write a thesis on this. Okay, like it's gonna be, oh my god. Okay, so not case studies, there's the case studies, right? And there's actually medical reports. Those are given to journalists and other reporters to kind of water it down so other people can kind of, the general population can comprehend it without being a professional in that field, right? Like they've never heard those terms before, they don't know what that means or how it's applied in that situation. So they write it in a way that a lot of people can kind of grasp the point of it. Because a lot of it sounds like mumbo jumbo. Like if I started to read out all the chemicals in dishwashing liquid, a lot of people would be like, I don't know what that is. They don't even know what the structure looks like of each chemical compound and how it interacts with another chemical compound, right? As a chemist would know, right? A PhD in like chemistry would understand what those things would mean and why they use those things, and if they could substitute it, how they can like make a substitute for that dishwashing liquid, or what all that means. Like it's a trade secret for some companies, honestly. They guard it very, very closely to their heart. But some people like if I've never taken a chemistry class in my life, how the hell would I know that? I wouldn't. And I wouldn't want to know because I just wouldn't be interested in it because I don't know anything about chemistry, right? I'd be like, what the hell is chemistry? What the fuck is that shit? I don't need to know chemistry. All I need to know is that I can go to the store, buy dishwashing liquid, and it washes my dishes, and that's fine. It's really all I need to do. It's all I need to know to get by in life, and that's fine. That's true. You don't really need to know that much things. You need to know everything to be able to wash dishes. It's not like I don't need to know where my shoes were made, who made them, and what it's made of in order for me to know or recognize, oh, these are shoes, it goes on my feet so I don't cut myself on the ground outside. Like I don't need to know. I don't need a PhD in chemistry to tie my shoelaces or put clothes on my body, nor do I need a PhD in linguistics in order for me to hold down a job. Like, those aren't really. I don't need those things if it's not applicable to me whatsoever. Right? It's just. Do I need to know what soap is? Yes. But do I need to know how to make soap and what it's composed of and who makes it and how I can manufacture my own soap in order for me to use soap? Absolutely not. Like, do I need to care about those things? Do I need to know that in order for me to live my life? It might help in certain aspects, but I don't think it's necessary. It's kind of like, why do I care if this company is dishonest about soap making habits if their product works fine for my body and it's not really causing that much environmental damage from what they're saying? I don't see it affecting me. It's not like they're poisoning everyone else to make soap to get money from me and ruining crops and causing people to eat GMO that causes mental retardation in infants or something. That's ridiculous. Why? That's not even true. Why would that be a thing that's happening? That's some crazy theory. Some kook who lives in the middle of the woods with no friends comes up in his little holed-up little room, and has, I think, everything's a conspiracy theory. What is crazy talk, right? Who on earth would, if that was true, that would be environmental activists everywhere, and people would be banging on their door and hey, you gotta stop making that soap, it's causing my dog to urinate grain, and my chickens have stopped making eggs because you keep leaching that stuff into my soil. Right? People probably cause wars over that kind of stuff if that happened. That's crazy. Who would do that? Why would anybody do that? Right? That's crazy. No, come on. It's absolutely insane. Who would think about that kind of stuff? Obviously, they're honest and good people, especially if they're running a business. Why would they not be honest? They're gonna lose money. Do they not care about the money that they're making? What, they're just gonna make a business just to hurt other people? Who would do such a thing? Why would anyone do that? Just make money just so that they can use that against other people because they just felt like it. Those people aren't going anywhere in life. Come on, they're gonna be exposed so quickly, and people are gonna be like, "How dare you?" There's gonna be a public outrage, and people are gonna be banging on their walls and on their doors, and be like, "Excuse me, you gotta rectify this. I want my refund." They're gonna lose all their money and go to prison, and I don't know. People are gonna be like, "How the fuck did this even happen?" And they talk about it for days on the news. Come on, that's not. How dare you even accuse people of even doing that? It's people are awful and they just run around having all these schemes of hurting everyone else and ruining lives. Who the hell would think that way? That's crazy. That's paranoid. Anyway, I'm not saying there are people who don't have the kind of motivations and intentions and desires. Obviously it may exist in some people, but in order for them to be able to fulfill those set desires, it would require some sort of intelligence, and quite frankly, it's like looking at a pink hippo. It just doesn't exist. That coloration does not exist for that specific species. There's never gonna be an aquamarine fur colored on a dog. I'm sorry, that just doesn't happen. You can dye the dog aquamarine color. Yeah, you can get your dog's fur dyed. It's dog fur friendly. It's not gonna be toxic to the dogs. And you can definitely dye their fur. A lot of people do that to make them look cute for dress them up and stuff and take pictures of it. This kind of stuff it's cute and it's fun and it's something to do, right? But it's not gonna be naturally aquamarine fur color, right? What the hell is that? people's skin are blue. Like, I can paint my skin blue with skin paint, right? But I'm not gonna have actual blue skin, or red skin, or yellow skin, or it's skin is fleshy colored, right? I mean, there's variations of flesh colors, but I'm not gonna have bright pink skin color, nor is it gonna be gray, nor is it gonna be like, I mean, if I was gray, I mean I was dead. Like, if my skin color was gray and tinged with purple, it would mean that I'm dead. That's what corpses look like. That is ridiculous. Okay, like, birds have very nice feathers. Yes, birds come in that color. Budgies, lovebirds, those birds, they have really nice bright coloring schemes. But with dogs and cats and rabbits and hamsters and chinchillas and guinea pigs and what have you, they don't come in that specific coloring scheme for their fur. You can dye it, but it's not natural, right? It's kind of like that, like people like that with those typical like aspirations don't necessarily have like the skill set to achieve certain things in life, such as being a CEO, running a business for more than a decade. I mean, that actually requires a lot of skill, even if people don't really understand it, right? It's just kind of not really like if I was a person who was running a business and I was like, everyone's gonna screw me out of my money and people are just out there to steal from me and hurt me, I'm not going to be able to keep that business running for a very long time, right? Not with that mindset, because it's gonna affect my business choices. Because now instead of actually looking to put product on the shelves and let people experience what it's like to use my product, I'm gonna be focused on making sure I'm gonna use all my energy to make sure no one steals from me. Like, it's counterintuitive. Like, it's kind of productive, rather. But anyway, with academic case studies, how do I explain this in a way that makes sense? If I don't, like, let's say I'm trying to follow a recipe for making a sandwich, right? I've personally never even encountered bread or sandwich ingredients before in my life. How am I supposed to know what it's supposed to taste like or what it is? Right? Like, they can give me like very specific brands, and they can tell me you can go to the grocery store and ask the grocery clerk, these are the specific brands you need to purchase to make this sandwich, right? If I actually don't know anything about a sandwich or its ingredients, like I don't even know what that is, I've never seen that before, how am I supposed to know how to make a sandwich, even if I follow the recipe, if I've never even seen it in a picture? Right? It's kind of hard to visualize it or understand it or even know if I did it correctly if I actually don't know what that is. I've never seen a template of it. Right? It's hard to go off of nothing, right? Like, it's kind of like that. Like, if a person doesn't have the understanding, right, they don't know what they're actually talking about because they don't know what the point of it is, right? Then how are they gonna grasp what's being talked about, right? It's kind of why, like, a lot of people have a hard time understanding these journals that are being published, right? The studies. And it's like physics studies, could be chemist studies, could be biology studies, could be psychology studies. I mean, with psychology studies, I've actually noticed, hold on. The tricky thing with psychology is that it's not completely ethical or humane. So because there's actually a board of ethics, actually, it has to go through the review committee and the board of ethics. There's two different groups of people who actually review the proposal prior to actually getting the green light or the go-ahead to conduct said study. And if it doesn't pass both of them, then they cannot actually publish the journal, even if they went ahead with the experiment, right? No one's gonna know about it, right? Or even if they do it, people can't actually go by their work anymore because it's already been declined at the initial stages, right? So that's kind of like, that's I think the biggest issue with people who try to read psychology studies, is that the problem is that they're trying to, the whole point behind psychology is saying this is human behavior and the reason for human behavior and how it expresses itself controlling for these factors, right? And it's hard to prove why people do things without actually harming them or kind of affecting the general population negatively. And it's like kind of like, oh, I kind of want to prove that people won't stab each other no matter what happens if they're a type of person to never stab anyone else, regardless of whatever they go through, right? And they need actual evidence for it, and this actually has to have occurred, not just theorized or talked about, right? And again, the jargon is different because theories in scientific terminology is actually verifiable data, versus theory in just general everyday jargon is, it just means that this is something, this is my idea and this is what I think about it. Here's my theory based on what I've seen, right? That's kind of basically what a theory is in scientific studies too, but it's not completely that either. So in scientific theories, they've actually done the experiment and they're saying based on our experimental data, here, based on our actual observation of said experimental data, this is what we conclude and this is what we actually can say about this. Now, we don't actually know if it's applicable in every case and if it's gonna always happen every single time, but based on the evidence that we have currently, this is what it is. That's the scientific theory, and that's actually what theory means in general terms, but it's not applicable for, they're not talking about an actual experiment. Or they're saying, here's my theory on why my friend is feeling this way based on what I've seen because I was hanging out with my friend like the past week and this is what my friend has told me from what they were doing and what was going on in their life, right? This is my theory based on what I'm observing, right? And this is what I've talked to her about this or him about this, and this is what I think about what's going on in my friend's life. That's the same schematic, but applied differently, right? It's kind of like, I don't want to say this without like, I don't want to say this without actually like sounding like something that's so obvious, like duh. And if it's so obvious, people are going to dismiss it because they're not really understanding what's actually being said, right? But okay. The key to understanding academic studies and journals is that you need to actually know somewhat what that category of journal thing is. Yeah, so if you have no experience or no knowledge of linguistics, right, the study of languages, right, how are you going to understand a scientific journal on linguistics? You're gonna have to learn what linguistics is and the current trends in linguistic studies in order for you to be able to understand the linguistic journals. All right. This is the best way I can describe it without actually outright saying some people will never be able to understand it. I don't think it's impossible. It might take longer for some people than others. That's it. I mean, uh, also, I've noticed something which is something no one ever really talks about, and it's like people value intelligence greatly. It's something that a lot of people aspire to be and would like to consider themselves to be. Right? It's something that's desirable. It's a desirable trait in human beings. This trait called intelligence or IQ, rather high IQ, right? I mean, it's a very dominant factor in mating choices. A lot of people are not willing to mate with a person who is of low IQ. I think this is what my professor was trying to get at when she was forcing us to go out and get some experimental data by asking people. So what on level of attractiveness, which is directly correlated with intelligence, which is why people are dying literally to look better than they actually do. The cosmetic surgeries, newsflash, they're actually very risky and highly dangerous. It's like willingly going through a car crash to get insurance money. That's literally what that is. But yeah, so intelligence is valued and unintelligence is devalued, right? It's always pejorative to call somebody unintelligent. Like, no one responds well to being called unintelligent. And because it's such a huge factor in a lot of people's life choices, it's kind of like, I mean, it seems superficial, it's really not. But, like, oh my god. Okay, so with the case studies, just if you actually want to understand the case studies, you actually have to know what that looks like and what it is. To be able to recognize these theories or these facts and these laws of, like, say, psychology. This is for a fact that we know about human behavior. If you know those, the basics, the 1, 2, 3s, then it gets a lot easier to be able to understand what they're talking about. Right? And I think the biggest problem that I've seen regarding that is that a lot of people just kind of disregard their own preferences and their own likes in an effort to seem or appear intelligent, right? And it's not that, like, if you don't personally like reading that kind of stuff, why are you? You know, that's like that bottom line, right? It's like, if you have no preferences whatsoever, you have no opinion of it, that's one thing. But if you actually dislike reading about or certain topics, why would you intentionally put yourself in that situation where you have to continually experience some dislike that you have? Like, if my preferences were for, instead of reading psychology journals, I'm deterred by reading psychology journals because I abhor psychology, right? I hate psychology, right? But I really love learning about biology. I love biology. All these concepts and all these ideas associated with biology is just amazing to me. Okay, it's the best thing I have ever seen. It's so interesting, and I love talking about anything associated with biology, right? if that's what that is, and why wouldn't I continue to expand on my likes? Why would I try to expand on my dislikes? And like, it's just gonna cause problems for myself, right? That's me personally. Like, it's just obviously that's going to limit me in meeting people, right? It's like not everyone's gonna like biology. People who dislike biology is gonna automatically not want to talk to me because that's one of my passions in life, right? If somebody really likes psychology, then I'm not going to be able to talk to that person because it's one of their passions in life. And I personally hate psychology or talk about psychology, and that person really likes it. And I can't actually like expect to be friends with somebody who really likes psychology if I don't like it. Right? Unless we talk about something completely different and never ever talk about psychology again, which would be hard, seeing as if the other person is really, really, really into psychology, right? That's gonna be genuinely all they ever talk about. So it's kind of like already like creates like that whole like a whole thing of like I can't be friends with that person because of that, right? Unless we like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be around people who dislike anything I like because then I would have to restrict myself, right? And I'm not saying people shouldn't restrict themselves, but I'm saying, maybe in a personal setting, I don't really have to be friends with people who don't share similar interests. That's something I personally believe in. And I think that applies to everyone. I don't think people should be forced to be friends with anyone. To be honest, I don't think that's even possible. How can you force friendship on somebody? How are you gonna force people to be friends with you? I don't think that's possible. I'm not saying it has to be developed naturally, but I'm just saying like friendship is something based on mutual interest and likes and preferences. Yeah. I mean, with acquaintances and neighbors and family members is obviously different. But with friends, I think it's hard to be friends with somebody who doesn't share any similar interests at all. Or rather, opposing interests. That would be a little odd. I'm getting like a headache I think that's called being a blockhead. Oh, speaking of blockheads, it's actually a kid's toy. Blockheads. And Roblox. And they're like extra huge Legos. And it won't hurt if anyone steps on it, and like it's so huge and little kids can stack them and stuff. Yeah. Roblox. Can't really make much with it, but it's something to do, I guess. Oh, also, I've never played with Play-Doh as a kid. I hated it. It smelled funny. I don't know. I think the point of it is just a bunch of squishy things, and also it dries out really quickly. And they're like, I can't even make it into a sculpture or anything. And I'm like, I don't understand the point of playing with Play-Doh. So that wasn't really something I played with as a kid. But I've seen people who actually did play with Play-Doh, and they're all criminals for some reason. Weird. This is from it's anecdotal evidence, okay? I actually haven't met everybody who played Play-Doh in my entire life. I don't know if it has to do with the environment or the Play-Doh itself. But like, my assumption is that it has something to do with Play-Doh. Right, not necessarily the environment, because that would mean that everybody is exactly a criminal, regardless of the Play-Doh being an influence in their life, right? I don't know, but anyway, if you are at a point where you are trying to read something and you can't comprehend it, do not, just give up. Just stop trying so hard. Holy shit. If you need a professor to explain to you what a thing is, then I gotta be honest, you probably aren't very adept at learning skills and acquiring knowledge on your own. And that's fine, you don't need those things, okay? Like, just, why are you forcing and torturing yourself over something that you don't understand? Like, it's not a hard to understand for a lot of people, and that's what they're for, right? That's what that's for. For people, it's not hard for. If it's hard for you, then that means maybe you should pick something else. There's a million other things you can do. You don't need to do that specific thing. You're torturing yourself over, right? Don't feel like you're less of a person because you're not as smart as a PhD in that topic. I just don't think that that's like a good standard to go by in assessing yourself and your life in relation to other people. I mean, it's good to kind of compare yourself to other people. I think that's a healthy thing. It should be a healthy thing, rather. But I mean, I'm not gonna compare how I'm doing to a. I'm not gonna like expect myself to know as much as a PhD because I don't actually have a PhD. Right? I would be going to the PhD guy for advice and knowledge regarding that. Right? That I wouldn't. Right? It's like I don't know. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna go to a random business owner let's say I'm gonna walk into PetSmart and tell the owner of that PetSmart franchise how to do their taxes. Yeah? Even though I'm not even an accountant. And at that, even if I was, I'm not a very experienced accountant. I just got out of school. I don't actually have any work experience. That would be insane. Right? I think so. Personally, I think that's insane. I'm like, I wouldn't actually have.
I used to call it landscape, you know?
I don't want to say there are like hard and fast rules to socializing, and there's really not. Like, you can definitely go about socializing in your own way and doing things like in a way that's not completely conventional. But I'm gonna say most of the time, like I'm gonna say it's probably better to not do those things because it's just gonna be insulting. Right? It's gonna come off like as if you think you're like. If that store for whatever reason was facing a significant amount of financial issues unrelated to the business itself, it's very implicative. So I wouldn't do that personally, and I don't think this is. You know what? Even if that wasn't even true, they're gonna hate you for it, 100% guaranteed. And you don't want people in higher positions than you to hate you. That's not very wise. As in, like, this, it's gonna work against you. Like, you're going against the grain there, right? It's gonna be to rubbing them the wrong way. It's gonna cause them to try to exclude you and kind of remove you as a customer. And perhaps maybe they will talk about to other manufacturers and other clients and their actual accountant who will actually hate you for that. It's called etiquette. This is why etiquette is important.
Oh, I was just on my way over here, but I think sometimes
But yeah, important thing is that your parents love you, and you know your future is not as bleak as you think. And there's a lot of great people out there who share your same opinions and your viewpoints and who would love to talk about something that you guys both love to talk about, or is like do things that you guys both love doing. You don't need to do some specific thing because you think that your idea of being a person or a fully fulfilled person is based on doing certain things, which it actually isn't. Please stop. You're actually bothering a lot of people who actually really like that stuff by doing some fucked up shit and talking shit about it, even though you think you have a valid point. And no, they're not being snobby. Okay, they're not actually trying to condescend you or try to put you in a place or anything. It's just simply hard to talk to somebody when they don't know what they're talking about. And there's no way to say that without being condescending, right?